Maduro. So for more on this, we're now joined by Iowa Congresswoman Marionette Miller-Meeks. Good morning to you. So I would love to get your just initial reaction to hearing the news that Maduro was captured this weekend.
Well, the first thing most of us think is that, Venezuela was a once prosperous and wealthy country in South America, which was devastated by Hugo Chavez and then Maduro. And most countries, including the United States and including the Biden administration, considered Maduro an illegitimate president. So was, very thankful that President Trump, with a joint effort from law enforcement, the military, and intelligence, were able to do such a precise, brilliant, strategic extraction of Maduro from the country to face charges on which he's been indicted as a narco-terrorism. We know that Venezuela was one of the few South American countries that was not helping the United States and, in fact, the world in drug trafficking, addressing cartels, the mafia-like cartels, transnational criminal organizations, and that they were also assisting Iran in the Middle East in terrorism there as well. So I think this was a brilliantly conducted operation, very precise, very limited. I know the people in Venezuela, as well as Venezuelans who are here in the United States, are delighted that this move has taken place. And we will see, just as we did with the invasion of Panama and Operation Just Cause and the extradition of Noriega, that Maduro will come here to face charges and go through the due process on narco-terrorism.
Yeah, and when it comes to this extremely precise operation, of course, there's some lawmakers now, they're upset that they were not notified of this takedown. However, you've got Secretary of State Marco Rubio explaining that this act did not need congressional approval. Let's take a listen.
This was not an action that required congressional approval. In fact, it couldn't require congressional approval because this was not an invasion. This is not an extended military operation. This is a very precise operation that involved a couple of hours of action. It was a very delicate operation, too. It was one that required all these conditions to be in place at the right time in the right place.
Yeah, ma'am, I would love your reaction to his statements there. And I would also assume that they just could not risk anything being leaked beforehand.
Precisely. Number one, was a law enforcement operation. So you had law enforcement individuals assisted by the military as well as intelligence capabilities that were there. Maduro was indicted on charges. So these are criminal charges that were levied. And as a 24-year military veteran from a family of military veterans married to a military man, I can tell you the president had both constitutional and legal justification to do his actions, as well as for those who counter that if it was a military operation, you could still operate under the previous AUMF that Obama did and Biden did, for that matter. So the same, legality and framework exists for the actions that were conducted. As we know, there are many leaks in Washington, D.C. There are no secrets. And so this is an operation where the element of surprise was critical and has been used before by Democrat presidents as well as Republican presidents. There is absolutely legal and constitutional precedent for him to do this. And if you're talking about, a moral justification to do this, there are countries all over the world where we have to decide, can we help them? Is there a national security interest? And I would say, given the numbers of Americans that have died from drug overdoses, the strength of the cartels in South America, the Trinidad Aragua, who was in the United States conducting criminal activities, and then their work in supporting Iran and other terrorist regimes, that absolutely there is a national security as well as a personal security for the United States to do the actions that it has. And Maduro will face justice for all of his criminal activities.
Yeah, and I like that you brought up the gangs as well, coming over and murdering innocent Americans.